right, so last weekend we had some people over and I cooked an absolute feast. And not only was it fun just like cooking, but the prep for me was also very enjoyable. Like what am I going to serve? What goes with this? What do they like? It's a fun way to get like the creative juices flowing a bit. It made me want to one day host a very nice dinner party. So today I'm very excited about this one. I'm talking about all aspects of the perfect celebrity dinner party, the people, the conversation topics, the seating arrangements, everything. So get ready. So first, let me clarify, it's not a party, it is a dinner party. And a dinner party is defined as a social event where a small group of people are invited to have dinner and spend an evening at someone's house. The key word here is small. So I looked it up. How many people make up a dinner party, right? I'll let you guess for a second. Take your time. Start the Jeopardy music. What are your guesses? All right. Well, researchers have long studied the influence of group size and how basically people get along. For example, what's the optimal size for work settings, athletic teams, armies, etc. And there's even a number that suggests that there is a suggested cognitive limit to the number of people with whom we can maintain stable social relationships. It's called Dunbar's number. And apparently that number is 150 people. And from the opposite extreme, you can also ask yourself, okay, well, what's the smallest group towards Dunbar's number that makes sense? Thus being the perfect number for your next dinner party. Okay, so 2 is obviously too small, right? That's not a party at all. And plus 2 people together takes a lot of energy to keep them engaged and entertained. And adding another person to that is basically just leaving someone out, right? You can get the third wheel effect, which no one wants. And a group of 4 is nothing more than typically just 2 couples together. So that brings us to the number 5, which is to be considered the minimum number of people to have a successful group. And studies show that the tipping point of when relationships begin to weaken tends to be around 9 people, meaning the ideal number for your next dinner party is 5 to 9 people. And thank you, science, for helping us find this answer. So were your hypotheses correct? Well, I'll let you decide that yourself. But for my perfect dinner party, I'm calling the final number to be 8, including myself and my wife. And yes, of course, my wife would be one of the participants of this celebrity dinner party. I don't know how you can have the biggest dinner party of your life and not have your significant other be there. I feel like I'd be so uncomfortable if it was just me around all these celebrities by myself. And like sometimes you need someone normal to like balance you out. And eventually when everyone leaves, you want to gossip about it all later and just see what conversations they had versus what you had and talk about all the little stuff from the night. But that being said, we don't want to be the only couple there. So out of the 6 additional celebrities at my fictitious star-studded dinner party, that would mean 2 of them have to be in a relationship, and then I think I would have 4 singles. I think that would be the only way to make everyone feel genuinely just comfortable. Even numbers for relationships and singles, no one feels left out. No one feels like they're getting set up. It's great. But okay, so now that we have all of our numbers figured out, I think it's finally time to talk celebrities. But there's a rule in place that I want to talk about. When choosing your 6, it's not about your favorite stars or your favorite people or people that you're attracted to. That's not the game we're playing here. You're crafting the ideal social setting in your home. It's intimate. We want good conversations going. We want to have a little fun. We want to hear some personal, like little side stories going on. Everyone's got to loosen up a little bit. And if it's just me picking my favorite people, they don't all mesh well. You're making the perfect ecosystem, and you need to keep that in mind when crafting the perfect guest list. So I'm going to walk through each person kind of like one by one and explain my reasoning, but at least give me the courtesy, please, of listening to my full list of 6 before you start judging it, okay? Judging it is completely acceptable. I'm all for that, but at least let me say my piece first and tell you the whole lineup, okay? So 1 is me, 2 is my wife, 3 is Emilia Clarke, the mother of fucking dragons. She's 37, single, absolutely adorable and seems like a great time. Plus, side little thing, my dog's name is Tyrion, so that'd kind of be like a fun little icebreaker. But evidently, she's also pretty musically talented, which could be great to tie into some of the other upcoming guests that I'll be mentioning on the dinner party list. Also, for some reason, I just have this idea that British people are just so much nicer in general than Americans, which is great for a dinner party, right? That's exactly what you want. You need to have at least one British person, I think, at your ideal dinner party. And she's actually not the only British person who'll be in attendance as well. So that's just another great potential topic to cover amongst people at my dinner party. But apparently she's also a pretty big traveler too. She's been known to backpack around like Southeast Asia. So there's probably a lot of great stories in there, I think. And I bet she'll bring like a good bottle of alcohol to the party. And like, like most like worldly travelers, I feel like have a very good palate. So she'll probably bring something good. But yeah, who wouldn't get along with this girl? Plus, I read that she worked like something like 6 jobs at one time while she was trying to like make it in Hollywood, which tells me that I bet she's a pretty grounded individual and pretty normal compared to other celebrities, which is exactly what I want at my dinner party. Our next guest is Seth Rogen. How could you not want to hang out with this guy? He's 41, Canadian, been a part of some of the greatest comedies of my time. I feel like at a party, though, he's the perfect balance of like fun and serious. He's not looking for attention all the time, I feel like. So he wouldn't be like trying to like crack these jokes like every 5 seconds, trying to get everyone to laugh. Like he's not like that. I don't feel like. I'm sure he'd get along with all the guests in a great way. And I feel like he'd be even pumped himself to talk to Emilia Clarke. How could a nerd like that not want to talk about Game of Thrones for a little bit? And plus a little personal thing for me, he's going to bring some amazing weed, which I would be just thrilled about. And, he's got all these fun little amazing side projects going on right now, like houseplant, and he does some pottery. And we are just experiencing peak Seth, I think. Also, he's got a great book called Yearbook, and it is probably the funniest book I've ever read in my life. It's a collection of stories just throughout his life that he's experienced, and I'm dead ass serious that when I say I had tears just streaming down my face when I was reading this book. That's how funny it is, and I want this guy at my dinner party. Next guest, number 4, is Keke Palmer. We gotta bring a little fun to the table, and she is it, I think. She's 30 years old, extremely talented and funny. She just had a kid, so she's treating this as a fun night out. She's gonna be on her A game. Everyone would love to be around Keke Palmer, I think. Just look at her chicken chop date episode. It's only like 7 minutes long, and this girl just brings it. She is awesome. I think she might have to be a middle in terms of like seating arrangements too. And if you don't know what a middle is, it is absolutely crucial at a dinner party. So there's this one individual who sits in the middle of the table, obviously, and who drives the conversation on both sides, making sure the entire table is like staying engaged. And that's what I need. I think she'll be ready to do it. And besides my wife and I think she'd be one of the youngest people at the dinner as well. So that's kind of nice to bring that average age down a little bit for our cases. I don't want to feel like super young there, but I feel like she could definitely be someone who could hold her own talking to a person of any age, like that. How could you not? She's great. And side note, the host of Hot Ones, Sean Evans, once was asked, have there been any guests that you've had a crush on? And instantly he was like Keke Palmer, which I think holds a lot of weight. I mean, this guy is extremely personal. He does a great interview, but also like he's interviewed a lot of A-list celebrities. So for him to say that, I think lets you know that she is a lot of fun for sure. All right, my last single guest before I turn it over to the couple is an odd one, right? Here you go, Michael Bublé. So Bublé is 48 and Canadian, potential topic between him and Seth Rogen, so that's always good. But this guy is a sleeper pick, I think. He's been around in the game for a while, and you've never heard just a single piece of bad press about this guy. Not to mention, he's insanely talented, right? I mean, side note, the house that I'm hosting this dinner party in needs to have a piano in it, I think. This is a dream house scenario, right? But it needs to have a piano in it. If you get enough musicians or musically talented people in the room, someone is sitting down at that piano and it will make the dinner party. And when that happens, how could you not want Michael Bublé in the room? I mean, to be finished, like imagine, right? To be finishing up dinner and I turn and I see Bublé and Emilia Clarke just sitting down at a piano together. Just come on, like how could your heart not melt? But similar to Seth Rogen, I think he'd be a good balance of like fun and serious. Also, I read that he's obsessed with cooking, and anyone who wants to spend a little time in the kitchen with me, I'm all here for it. But I guess as a teenager, he served as a cook on his father's boat, and he's just like loved it ever since. Side note for him, one of his kids was diagnosed with liver cancer when he was like 3 years old. And frankly, my wife loves talking about cancer for medical purposes. I'll never understand it, but his son is now in remission, and my wife would be all over this topic. Not in like a weird, depressing way in any way. She's very good about broaching the subject to people, but she loves, I mean, she's going to be a doctor, so she loves obviously the medical field, and she loves oncology, so I think that would be right up her alley. But anyways, moving on to our final guest. The only couple in attendance will be Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin. Why? Well, for a few reasons, but it's also the perfect balance of music and acting, I think, at this party as a whole. But let me explain. So they've been together for like 6 years and are pretty private about their relationship, I believe, with the exception of the whole Gwyneth Paltrow kind of ex-wife deal that she's got going on, but she's crazy. But they've got some solid time under their belt, and most likely they operate as a good foundational couple. You know, you don't want a couple in their honeymoon phase, for example, at the dinner party, because the rest of the night you're just gonna kind of be grossed out by it. But why them specifically? Well, Dakota is 34, good median age for the party, I think. Chris is 46. I think he'd mesh well with Bublé and Seth Rogen. But these two probably have some great stories. I mean, Dakota's a Nepo baby, and her stepfather is Antonio Banderas. She's not like super intimidating, in my opinion, when it comes to like actresses, right? Like, imagine if like Meryl Streep was at the table. You'd be on edge the whole night. Everyone would feel uncomfortable because they didn't want to, like, you wouldn't want to say anything stupid. And on these like celebrity talk shows though, she seems pretty fucking normal. She seems like a normal person. And like when she was on Jimmy Fallon, she called him out for interrupting him, and then she calls out Ellen for telling a lie on her show. Like, I think this is exactly who you want at your dinner party. Someone who's bold enough to call people out on their bullshit while still having a little fun. Plus, if you get her alone with a drink, you can definitely see if she's willing to spill the tea on the whole Gwyneth Paltrow ex-wife scenario that she's dealing with. I think that's probably pretty interesting. So a little fun little gossip, you know? But yeah, Dakota would be chill though. Judgy, but in a fun, gossipy way, I bet. Like imagine like Tom Wamsgans and Greg from Succession. That's kind of the scenario that I'm envisioning. And fun fact for her role in 50 Shades of Grey was actually offered to Emilia Clarke, but she turned it down. So another great potential icebreaker amongst guests. You know, that's what I'm all here for. You also know she won't like overextend her stay because she sleeps like 16 hours a day apparently. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that was pretty funny that came out about her. But even Chris Martin is a great sleeper addition as well to my party. I mean, he's the frontman of Coldplay, probably one of the most beloved global bands of my lifetime. And once again, another British person, probably an insanely nice dude. He's vegetarian, so my wife would get along with him well. She's vegetarian as well, so they could talk food. But I think he'd be a fun dude, you know? Like, he doesn't seem to take himself too seriously, and that's a good balance for any dinner party, you know? You could have a little fun. You can make jokes about him. He could probably take him pretty well. Yeah, that's who is coming to the dinner party. But now let's talk seating. I mentioned the piano being at the dinner party, but this is also a dream house scenario, right? So like, this is whatever I want. I can host maybe like one person comfortably in my house right now. So in this scenario, I want a very big kitchen, massive dining room table that can fit 8 very comfortably. I want 2 on each end and then 3 on each sides. And I already said Keke Palmer has to be one of the middles, right? She has way too much personality not to be in the middle at this party. And I'd have to sit at one of the head seats because I'm hosting, and my wife would definitely need to sit next to me for safety in case I get stuck, because I can't hold a conversation sometimes longer than 5 minutes. That's pretty much all I've got. But at the same time, I think it's the middle's job, to really keep things fluid in terms of topics. I personally like to talk about like everyday things that weirdly stick in my mind. Like, for example, my wife is watching a lot of Law and Order SVU right now, which is a huge ick of mine, by the way, but I can get into that later in another episode. But anytime she hears something like a firework that goes off in the middle of the night, she thinks it's a gunshot, and immediately she's like, what time is it? We need to know what time it is in case the cops ask us. It's our civil duty to. And I think it's more suspicious, in my opinion, if a cop knocks on her door and is like, what time did you hear this? And I say exactly 10:24 p.m., sir. And that's when I heard it. Like, neither of us have witnesses for each other. I think that's a little suspicious. So I'd open up to the table. Let me hear your thoughts on this. Is it good to do this? Is it bad? What do you think? Or even another topic that I recently saw was, so that you've got the body and the blood of Christ, right? It's wine and bread. Well, what is your body and blood of choice? Like, what would you choose? Like, my wife's, I think, would be something like lemon water and Takis, probably. Like, that's her body and blood. But regardless, I'm getting off track here. So there's 3 seats laid out. Me, my wife, Kiki Palmer. Next to me, I want Seth Rogen. We'll probably both be high, and out of everyone, I probably feel the most comfortable around him. Next to him, the other middle at the table, I got Bublé. Got to keep the 2 Canadians together. Plus, I bet he probably has had a lot of conversations with old people, so his conversation skills are probably on point. 4 seats down to me, next to Bublé, we've got Amelia. I feel like she'll be a little quiet at first, so we need to make sure that she's next to a middle to stay engaged, stay in the conversation. She'll take a little bit of time to warm up, I think. Frankly, that's totally fine. I just think that's what's going to happen. And I'll have to maintain a little distance from her at the table because I'd be a tad bit worried that I'd possibly fall in love with her. So if my wife, you're watching this, I'm sorry, but she's Khaleesi, it's not my choice. Well, it's my choice that she's at the dinner party, but that's all I can do. So next to her, I think I would put Chris Martin. Got to keep the 2 Brits together. I think they'd have good little side conversations together. Plus, they're probably both so nice. And then next to him, obviously on the other side, you got Dakota. Dakota next to Kiki. I think Dakota and Bublé will have a good little banter back and forth. I think that'll be good. So yeah, that's the table. That's the setup. That's what we're doing. Other honorable mentions who almost made the cut for this party. I put a lot of time and effort into thinking about this list, but we got Dua Lipa, Adele, Steve Carell, Emma Chamberlain, Matthew McConaughey, and Jerry Seinfeld. They were just all on the cusp of making the dinner party. Unfortunately, they did not. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe if I have another one in the future, that would be great. I'd love to have you all, but I can only seat 6. But yeah, I am super happy about my dinner party choices. I think it's a great group. I think everyone's gonna mesh well. What would I serve to eat? I have no idea. I probably wouldn't sleep for days. I would have to ring in some additional help here. I mean, this menu would just cause me immense anxiety, and I don't want to think about that right now. This podcast is my happy place, but it would definitely be a good mixture of food, that's for sure. For the meat eaters, you got the 2 vegetarians at the table. Also, I wouldn't want anything too greasy or anything that could really get stuck in your teeth easily. Knowing me, I'll fucking say some shit and have a massive piece of parsley that's just stuck right between my 2 front teeth or something. And just like that, the whole dinner party would go to shit. It would just be ruined just because of this minor little error that I made when choosing this dish. Anyways, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I would love to hear your dream dinner party guest list. I feel like this gives a lot of insight about you as a person. So let me hear them. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to see what you've got to say. But thank you at least for listening. I appreciate it. If this video ever makes it to one of these celebrities, hit me up and let me know what you think. Let's make it happen. Until then, I upload new videos every Saturday, so I will see you next week.